Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Lisa Dublin. I'm a health and life coach. I help women to speak, to lead, and to live with confidence. And today we have such a powerful topic. It's a series that I started called Three Things That a Woman Must Control. And if you're watching me, let me just go live on Instagram as well. So we can just share the love, share the wisdom, share the conversation, because it's one that I think a lot of women think about, but we are sometimes just afraid to speak about. And it is the power of sex, food, and money in how you get ahead. So, this is going hand in hand with my podcast, which is out today. I run a podcast called Basement Chronicles, the podcast, and there's a new episode out today. Let me just put it up so you can see wherever you get your podcast, you can find it, or you can head over to my website, and you can listen there. But it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, and I do part one today, and that's what we're going to talk about: three things a woman must control. And today's topic is about controlling your sex life. Are you ready for this? Yeah, because it's important. And the thing is, I also do a newsletter on a Sunday, which I'm gonna like have people sign up for shortly. And so, I looked at this topic in its entirety on Sunday, and I got a lot of feedback because it's very thought provoking. As in, yes, we are independent professional women, and we have control over our bodies, but what are we doing with that control? And what is the place of your sex life, whether you are married or not, in how you choose to get ahead? Is it interfering with it? Is it promoting it? Is it part of how you get ahead? I have so many thoughts about that coming from my own experience. First of all, being single, now being married for almost 20 years. And you'd think that, okay, you're married and you no longer have to deal with certain things. What? Oh my goodness. No, it's just not happening. So we're going to talk about it for the next couple minutes. The first thing that I want to say is this: from my experience, and I gave this at my last keynote when I spoke to a bunch of women who really want to get ahead. And for me, tactically, if you think about it, if you can control your sex life, if you can control what you put in your mouth and how you eat, which controls how you feel and how you show up, and if you can control your money and be that wise person who's making proper decisions around there, you have a lot more control in life. And who doesn't want power? Who doesn't? As a woman, as a professional woman, who does not want to be in control of their life, whether you are married or not? So, if you want to go listen to the podcast today, I delve a lot more into it. I give the background for why I'm saying the things that I say there. And it's pretty vulnerable, but that's what is needed. That's the level of authenticity and truth that is needed, I think, in today's world to make us think in our private moments. When something snags your heart, it's usually because it comes from the depth in somebody else. And so that's what I'm speaking from today, the depth, from the depth of who I am. I went recently to a business mixer, and my husband wasn't with me. Not that he needs to be, but it would have been nice. But he doesn't really like those things. And I went alone, and like, I think I've come to realize and accept, like most women, I get my fair share of attention and all of that. And that's okay. Every woman wants to be celebrated, admired, that kind of thing. But what do you do with that? And where's the place of that in how you get ahead as a woman? That's what we're talking about. So, yes, you get admired. Yes, people will hit on you, male and female, whatever, mostly males, but that's just the reality of what we live, the life that we live. But I feel like having made certain decisions about who I was sexually a long time ago helped me to be in the frame of mind to be able to put that attention and those subtle advances sometimes in their place. And while it's pretty flattering, the thing for me is that um, I'm married and now I really value fidelity. And it's tied to so many things, not just sexually and spiritually, But if you really think about the professional aspect of getting that part of your life under control, there are many reasons to pursue it and many reasons for you, if you are not that person in control, to get there. Sex is powerful. We all know that. Yes, that goes without saying. And for many professional women, it is sometimes tied to how they get ahead. I'm choosing my words very carefully, you guys. I just prayed about this before. I know what I want to say. I was pretty open in the podcast, but this is different. This is a bit different. And should it be tied to how you get ahead? In my opinion, it should not be part of the equation. I'm the kind of person, as a professional woman, who values my mind above so much else. Definitely above my body, because this will pass away. Okay. But that potential that every woman has to contribute in such a wholesome and powerful and fierce way to a conversation, an organization, a department, a movement, is sometimes derailed, like with men as well, is sometimes derailed because we are not in control of your sex life. Like, what is your policy around sex? Are you okay with sexual activity with your colleagues, with your board members, with your manager? Where are you? A lot of times we leave it up to the men to decide on when sex happens, whether or not it's in the equation. And my question is why. I was coaching a client the other day, who's, kind of dealing with that kind of attention at work, but it's very subtle and therefore very powerful. And all this woman wants to do is make her contribution. But people are coming from all sorts of ways to be able to try to complicate things. And, sometimes when things are not out there, it's very difficult for you to address it. And so we had to literally look at everybody's, or look at certain behaviors and recognize them for what they were, because there are several tactics that are used the higher up you go where sex is concerned. So you have to make that decision first of all. Am I that person who's going to wait? Am I going to wait for me to get married, which makes a lot, listen to the podcast. It makes a lot of sense for many reasons to be that person who's loyal to one person. So I know that part of my life is covered. Let me just go out and make a contribution in other ways everywhere else, because that is not on the table. And it makes it a lot easier when you have that part, when you settle on who you are sexually. It makes it a lot easier for your mind to be focused on, in a professional setting where your partner is not there, your husband is not there. It makes it easier for you to focus on the work. I have looked at so many women who can make such great, deep, I call them fierce contributions, but are mired in the shenanigans of sexual relationships that they have no business. Either they might be in an entanglement with the wrong person, a stressful situation, all of these things, because we have not decided in certain contexts who we are where sex is concerned. Who are you as that professional woman? You have to have standards. I don't care what anybody says. You have to have standards in the workplace, standards around yourself. As you get higher in the workplace, as you become more and more of the professional, and then the executive, then the C-suite, do the rules change? When I was like speaking with one of my clients, we came up with this phrase that my body is not part of the compensation package. And many times women act as if it is. On top of having to deal with men who feel entitled to try to do what they want with you, if you have not put down the placards and settled in yourself that no, this is a no, this is a boundary I'm not going to cross. This is not going to happen. If you haven't settled on that, the likelihood that these boundaries do get crossed is higher. And I feel like every single woman owes it to herself and has a responsibility to decide on what the standards are. From my experience, when your standards don't change, even though your situation does, in terms of I go higher, I perhaps I get a better job, whatever, my standard still is that I'm a one woman man. I'm staying with this person. I'm married, or if I'm not married. Here's the thing. I'm going to say it here, okay? Because even if you're not married, when does it stop? What are our standards for getting with somebody? 3 months, 6 months, a year? I do know. Hey Elsa, how are you? I do know God's way is the best way, and I say that unapologetically because you know what? The proof of the pudding is in the doing or the not doing. And from my experience, when you take sex out of an equation, out of a relationship where you're not married, I'm telling you, you see things a lot more clearly. And I have lots of friends who want to get married and keep on doing the same thing over and over. I meet a guy, I mean, I cannot be expected not to have sex. I cannot. How can you not be expected to? Like, all of us have emotions and we feel things. We all are like that. And if you are able to control yourself sexually, you have a better chance of moving things along if you want to get married. That is my experience of it. Listen to the podcast, the entire stories, they're my entire life. Oh my God. I'm not embarrassed though, because I've said it before, but it's just pretty vulnerable. So go listen to the podcast episode number 27 to hear the context of what I'm saying here today. But this is meant to help somebody. You're in the boardroom. You're part of your professionally, you're in corporate, you're amongst colleagues. What are your standards? When does it stop? If you are single and you're looking for somebody, I'm saying to you, you know what really works? God's way. God's way works. God's way always works. And I say that unapologetically in this very professional setting, because when you're a professional, you do not take out what works where personal life is concerned. So many women are so fulfilled professionally and are not fulfilled personally because they have not settled on who they are where sex is concerned. Just don't give it. Just don't give it. Then you begin to separate the sheep from the goats, the sheep from the men. Then you begin to see who's who. A friend of mine, when I wrote this newsletter on Sunday last, so this is an old topic, I've written about it, okay? Just not in this setting. She went back to her partner and she's like, well, I think we want to try to, not have sex. We're not married yet. Let's wait. Let's try to do it God's way. He turns around and he says to her, well, you know what? I only think I can wait 3 months. And I thought about it. Isn't that very typical of how in a relationship we lose our power as women? No one, whether they're feeding you or not, I don't care. Unless you're married, no one has the right to dictate to you when you give them sex or not. What is this? And I've been in relationships before where it's almost like a no-brainer. Men make it seem like it's a no-brainer. Of course, we can't wait. Let me tell you something. You know when it really begins to get real and when you begin to see things clearly? I have this thing that I spoke about. I think it was in episode number, the one talking about leaving an abusive relationship, episode number 26, I think it was 26 or 25. Go check it out. And I said something that I am even now still unpacking. We need to put men in their place. Many times we put men in the place of God. They are not comfortable with it because they were not meant to be God. The same way that when a man puts you in on the pedestal in the place of God in his life, it's not going to work either. Because God is God, and anything that takes the place of God is an idol. That's what it is, an idol. And idols will fall. They will fall. If not before you get married, afterwards, because idols will fall. And I was thinking about, just his insistence that he couldn't wait more than 3 months. Yes, you can. You're not an animal. You're not an animal. Yes, you as a woman, yes, you're hot and whatnot, but you can wait if you need to. Other people have done it. It's that kind of control that makes you powerful. It is that kind of control as a woman that goes beyond the placards and beyond, well, for me, the movements, and deals with that very quiet, very deadly kind of strength that I believe can only come from having a very deep relationship with your Lord and Savior, with God. Make no bones about it. I'm not apologizing. That will not hit some people well, but there's something about truth that hits the back of your throat like a glass of cold water, that every other ism is like pop. But when you hear truth, it hits the back of your throat like that glass of cold water. The minute you hear it, you know it's right, and nothing else suffices. This is what this functions as. Anything that you put in the place of God is an idol, and idols will fall. So we need to stop putting men in the place of God. They're not God. Put God in his place, and everything else will fall in line. You'll begin to see who's who. You'll begin to see who's who, beginning with your own self, if I may. And so you're going up the professional ladder, the corporate ladder, and you wanting to get to the top. The thing to remember is that your body is not part of the compensation package. It is not an exchange, it is not transactional. And it's not just about people making overtures for sex. It's a matter of how you treated. It's a matter of being in the social situations and people put their hand in the small of your back, whether you stay or not, whether you inch some ways away when people get too close, when they're intoxicated or not. All of these things send a real message about whether I'm available or down for it or not. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not. Let's talk about the ideas. And I believe, like, if more women would focus on making that sterling contribution that is not in the weeds of sexual relations at certain levels in companies, get your mind out and put that mind to work, because you are as capable, or maybe even more and more powerful, when you are super focused on the work that is assigned to you that you can do. And sometimes we do. Here's the thing. Many times, men use sex as a way to control women, especially in corporate situations. Have you ever? That is what that has happened to me. I will not lie. You know how when you are there are many iterations of it as you get older and in different ages, right? Let's say you got with a guy, you had sex with him, and the next day how he treats you different. Y'all are not together, but there's that sense of bravado, like, I got through. Oh my God. You know how that plays out when you get into corporate situations in the workplace? Where it plays out is you dare not speak up in the meeting because you know what we did last night. You dare not say anything because we don't have a clean relationship. It's not platonic. It's not what it's supposed to be. I end up looking better in such situations. We know that. The men end up looking better in such situations. And I'm not saying that to say it's right. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. And I feel like when you have standards in a corporate, in a professional situation, you retain more power and you have more power to wield. Here's something we need to guard against as well. Let's say that you are in a situation where you are that person who's all about the work. You are that woman who's not interested. But you're taken, you have your man, so you come into the workplace, you are about ideas. There is also a kind of strategy on the part of men in particular to make it seem like something is going on behind the scenes when there isn't. Have you noticed that? Has that ever happened to you? Sometimes they will make it seem as if we are closer than we really are. When we are together alone, they're normal. All of a sudden, when the right people are around, the higher ups, or you know the people who matter, You find a man getting closer to you, whispering in your ear, or you trying to make a serious point, and there he is joking around, almost looking at you leeringly, like you know what we're talking about, when there's nothing there. And I handle situations like that the same way I handle subtle racism. I call it out. Because number one, there's nothing there. So I can go in on you because you're not going to leave any meeting given the impression that you and I are what we are not. If you come too close, I am literally going to shift my chair. And those kinds of things are pretty embarrassing. You do it once and you react that way, it should not happen again if you do it right and you do it in a pointed way. Because my body's not part of our transaction. If you take that out, and I'm not to be touched, I am not to be. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? A lot of women put that on the table, leave it on the table. And the way we get caught in this is men making it almost seem a no-brainer that you should be open. You should be willing to go the distance, willing to do more than what you were hired to do. No, don't be fooled. You can read like the next person. You educated. No. And whether or not you are educated, it doesn't even matter. That if I don't decide to go forward with you, no one has the right to take it, to think that they can covet it and make it seem like, no, get that out of the way. Let's get back on the plane of talking about ideas. And so can you imagine going through your career with that kind of attitude and that kind of understanding? So I've got my person. That's where I'm going to direct my sexual energy. For everybody else, I'm going to have you on a certain level. I'm going to, before people and in private, I'm going to have, I'm going to have wholesome conversations. I'm not going to go down certain lines with you. Because when it comes to the battling out of ideas, that is sometimes easier between people of the same sex. I want to be able to have a clean conversation with you when it matters so that we can move this organization ahead. So that my body, your body, what we did last is not part of the equation. I take a stand on that for my own self. I've been on boards with only men, been on boards with women, men, whatever. And it has always been for me about the work. About the work. It probably is too that I wasn't looking, but I think even though I were looking, for me, if we're about the work, let's be about the work and nothing else. So if a woman can control that, she becomes more powerful. There are no slip ups there. No, you can't no. And there are ways to control it that you learn to be subtle and to not bruise people's egos as you go higher too. Because you want to be able to preserve relationships. I had this friend who used to say, like, just in terms of proposition in women, I had this friend who used to say the most you can do is ask. And in a sense, I respect that. But then the most you can do is ask. I also have the responsibility to say no. And you have a responsibility to accept my no because we're going to have some trouble. But a lot of us feel like we have to answer every innuendo. You know how men do, right? They send hooks, they send things for you to pick up and for you to lead into conversations and oh, geez, no. I You can ignore them. You don't have to answer every question. You don't have to take on every innuendo. No, you just don't. I've learned to do that so that I can return us very graciously and respectfully to the matter at hand, and to have a simple conversation, a platonic conversation where we go at the level of ideas, and then you begin to see what men really think about you, because some of them are not willing to look at you as an equal where ideas are concerned. That is why they want to go to the thing that they consider you as simply somebody to be, to sleep with. It's not right. And you have the right as a woman in whatever context, whatever your paycheck, whatever your paycheck. You have the right to recognize that your body is not part of the contract. It is not transactional. So I'm going to leave that with you today. And next week, my podcast will be about the other two things. So it's a three part, so it's 3 weeks, right? And when I really looked at it, there are three things we must control as women. So I said about sex today: control your sex life, control your food, and then also control your money. So next week we're going to talk about food, because like I too am in that space of recognizing what I put into my body affects how I feel and think. Oh my goodness, you guys. What you put into your body has an effect on you. And I'm going to be speaking about that in the context of being not just entrepreneur and professional. But I'm around moms a lot. My son graduated only yesterday from grade 9. So, it was a really lovely celebration and all of that. But I'm amongst moms and looking at us and my own self and recognizing when you are a busy parent, your relationship with food is different as well. Some parents tell me, I don't have the time. I just eat what I have found myself just eating the kids' snacks. Okay. Goldfish, oh my goodness. But then the thing is, if we can control our food, not only do we control our health, we also control how we feel. And that, I think, is like gold for a mom, for somebody, for a woman to be able to be in control at all times. So I have got a couple of suggestions, some of which we already know. Like, we need to talk about the processed foods and how much sugar we take in, how much water we drink, all of these things. If you can put these things in control in your life as a woman, you are in a more powerful place. I hope you join me. By the way, you guys, I have another channel. I have another YouTube channel, okay? I haven't done much with it, but I'm beginning on Saturday. This one is like, I love talking about God a lot. I just like, God amazes me. I'm in love with God, and I love the way he loves me and he loves us women. So I'm always like very woman centric, honestly. So I have this channel called Dance Like a Wife, and I'm going to be talking about worship as a way of power, worship as a way of accessing God. I guess anybody can, join the channel, subscribe to Dance Like a Wife, but I'm really starting this Saturday. I used to do something in my Facebook group called Saturday Spa, kind of bringing it back on a Saturday morning on Dance Like a Wife, because I just want to crush on God. I just want to talk about him and his power, because he's fascinating and he makes a lot of things possible. So I want to talk exclusively about him, about relationship with God, and like, how do you move from being nonchalant or not even knowing or even caring to being a person who seeks out God and lets God work in you. So if you want to, go join Dance Like a Wife. That's the name of the channel, because there's a lot of revelation happening now about the power of worship to get you the things, to get you closer to God, to break things in your life, and to bring things into alignment. So that's the other part of me that I think, like, especially like LinkedIn doesn't really lend itself to that, and I appreciate that. But you can join me over there for that, okay? So I think that was the last thing I had to say. Right on the ticket, we are. So thank you for watching. You can please subscribe. Here's the other thing. So a couple things. Please go subscribe to, let me see if I can show this. Subscribe to the podcast. It's called Basement Chronicles, the podcast. Everywhere you get podcasts, you can find it. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. Okay. If you are watching on Instagram, if you go to my bio, there's a link to the Basement Chronicles podcast on YouTube. Go sign up, subscribe, enable the notifications. Here's the reason you should do that. Okay. Anytime I go live, and I don't go live like so often, I'm doing it like once a week, giving value and getting off. Okay. But when I do, you will get a notification, and then you can join me in real time, because the live experience, it lends itself to the back and forth. So I want to have more of that, going forward. Anyway, you guys, so next week's topic, we look at Three things that a woman must control, part two. And we look at controlling your food, strategies for getting that part of your life right. All right. Thank you so much. Hit me up. Tell me what you think of what I said today, and listen to the podcast in particular because I think it's way sweeter. Way sweeter. But you'll tell me what you think. Bye, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week, or I'll see you on Saturday in Dance Like a Wife.